Hello everyone, this is Yoshio Bush, and this week we have our project-based learning text to review. So let's get started. Chapter 3, Imagining the Possibilities, was basically the beginning of the how to approach project-based learning, and the quote references that I have, which are 1264, are the locations on the Kindle version of the book because there are no page numbers. But the idea was basically to use projects to connect directly to the students by using their frame of reference and their interests to facilitate the learning process. And a wiki, which should be used during the entire lesson planning, is somewhere where you can add and edit content for the appropriate project, but it being online, so it's available anywhere at anyone's fingertips to change, redo whenever a new thing either sparks a new interest or different perspective. The wiki gives you the ability to do it at that very second without the possibility of forgetting or anything like that. The projects should have students doing more individual work while they're building self-management through a group process. So there's a lot of initiative that needs to take place that teachers have to facilitate, and Chapter 3 really just helps the teacher see that there's a lot of possibilities with the project-based learning technique. Chapter 4, Strategies for Discovery. There are a lot of issues that can arise with project-based learning, and it's the most important thing that the chapter was saying was that the project itself has to have the student experience be the most important, because their experience will govern their quality of the work. But there are a lot of issues with project-based learning that can happen if they are not approached appropriately, and pitfalls, as the book calls them, are one, maintaining focus on the learning outcomes, because the project might be the focal point instead of the actual objective or the lesson that needs to take place. The projects will use a lot more technology than traditional setting classrooms. So utilizing technology can be distracting if it's always something on the phone or on the computer that opens a lot of negative, possibilities of students being distracted. So it's important to maintain a level of technology and traditional teaching to maintain the students' attention. Also, creating relevant learning goals can be difficult because the project has to be specific and the goal might be a broad topic, so it can be confusing, or the objective might get obscure if the project isn't completely relevant to the objective itself. Also, keeping instruction direct and simple because with projects you can get boggled down with details and making sure that the students know every single detail, but that loses focus and the students might start worrying too much about making sure every I is dotted instead of learning the lesson. So it's important to maintain a clear but simple direction to lesson planning and the project itself. Maintaining use of formative assessment can be forgotten because the project might get more of the focus instead of the lesson itself or the objective itself. So the use of formative assessment still needs to take place, as the authors noted, because it allows for a clear checking of understanding. Chapter 5, Making Assessment Meaningful. The assessment should be developed by more than just the teachers. The parents and community members should be involved. With their involvement, the projects can be more catered to that specific class and help the students' engagement by making it very catered to that particular group of students. Also, teachers need to be aware that there's a possibility of assessment being put on the back burner because the project becomes more of the focus. But it's important to maintain the attention to assessment to ensure that these students are not simply creating a project but are meeting their goals through the lesson objectives. So summative assessment, which uses rubrics and task performances, tests, and so on to evaluate the student work, are necessary, as the authors say, to communicate the expectations of the learning goals. The authors also say that the evaluation of the project itself will help determine if the students were able to understand the learning goals because they were either able to complete the project itself or not. That will show the growth of the skills involved and the processes involved. And both of these assessment tools are important to ensure that the students are using these project-based learning tools to meet the standards. The only resource I used for this was the book itself, the Kindle version, which is why there's a location number instead of a page number. But I found that the project-based learning was a useful tool to have students gain an understanding of their goals and expected outcomes of lessons by something else besides the standard traditional teaching model. This has been my presentation. I appreciate all of you during this summer session. Thank you.